Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the $1,000 e-bike shootout. Our setting for the shootout today is the beautiful Kyle Field in College Station, Texas. This is where the Texas A&M Texas Aggie football team plays. The stadium just underwent a $400 million renovation about 2 or 3 years ago and is one of the finest college football stadiums in the country. So just thought it might be a fun place to video our shootout. What we're looking at, you may already be able to identify these two bikes. Probably one of them, certainly. The one on the right is the Lectric XP, one of the most popular e-bikes in America right now. You'll see videos all over YouTube about the Lectric. The one on the left is a little bit lesser known, but it's by a company called Ride1Up. They have a good lineup of e-bikes. This is the Ride1Up Core-5. The reason I'm comparing these two bikes today, I only do one take, no editing e-bike reviews of bikes that I own and drive myself. And so I own both of these bikes. Wanted to give you just a little bit of background about how I ended up owning two e-bikes that are priced at approximately $1,000. My wife and I were looking at getting into e-bikes, and we did tons of research like I'm sure most of you are doing. We watched videos online, we got onto the websites, we compared specifications, and we decided in that process that we wanted 4 e-bikes. We wanted, when one of our kids and their spouses came into town, we wanted to be able to, all 4 of us, go out and have a great time riding around the campus or riding around town, going down to downtown, going out to eat, that kind of thing. We wanted all 4 adults to be able to go ride e-bikes together. And so instead of buying some expensive e-bikes, we decided to get good quality e-bikes in the $1,000 range and buy 4 of them. So that's how I ended up with these two e-bikes. And I ride both of them regularly, so I have a good basis for comparison. What I'd like to do for the format for our shootout today, you know, I see a lot of these reviews and comparisons on YouTube. And it's basically, I love the bike, all the features are great, every bike is great, no negatives or maybe very few negatives, but I'm gonna do a really honest review, and in the end I'm gonna give you a winner. It's not gonna be one of those where they're both great, it just depends on your taste. I'm gonna give you a winner here. Having said that, I will say up front that I do love both of these bikes. I'm happy with my purchase on both bikes. So our format today is I'm going to start with one bike. I'm going to give you 5 things that I love about the bike. Then I'm going to give you 3 things that I don't love about the bike, or challenges or concerns or things you might think about if you're going to purchase it. Then I'll do that for the other bike. Then I'll give you an overall assessment and a winner. So let me start with the Lectric e-bike. This is called the Lectric XP. It is a folding e-bike. It's got an internal battery. You can see it, it's a great looking little e-bike. And let me say, when I list out the top 5 things, the #1 thing for the Lectric e-bike is it's just a fun e-bike to drive. You can see it's kind of got a scooter look. It's easy to hop on, it's zippy. It's just really fun to drive. And so you can't drive it without having a smile on your face. It's got those 4-inch fat tires, 20-inch tires. Just a lot of fun, gets a lot of attention when you drive around. People smile when they see you on it, but it's just a fun e-bike. So #1 is it's fun to drive. #2 is you can fold this thing up. The handlebars fold down, the seat you can push down, it folds in half, and it'll literally fit in a 45-gallon tote that you pick up at Lowe's or Home Depot, and you can lift it and put it in the back of your car. We can fit 2 of them in the back of our SUV. And so when you think about traveling with e-bikes, your really only other option is to get a carrier that goes onto your 2-inch receiver hitch. And those for e-bikes cost, let's just say they start at about $400. And so it's really nice to be able to fold up your e-bike and put it in the back of your vehicle. So that's the second positive thing about it. #3, pedal assist. The levels of pedal assist work differently on different e-bikes. And so when you look at this Ride1Up bike, when you have pedal assist on, it is really powerful. It takes over. It's fast, and that's great. I love that about it. But it's really hard to ride around the 11 mile an hour, 12 mile an hour. It always wants to go 16, 17, 20 miles an hour. But the Lectric, you're able to spend more time riding at that 10, 11, 12 miles an hour and keep it at a lower speed with pedal assist. And that's great for if you're riding with friends who are not on e-bikes, or you just want to ride at a more leisurely pace. And so that's a real positive about the Lectric. Let's talk about the fat tires. That's number 4. I rode both of these bikes recently out at my parents' lake house, and there's a gravel road, and we were riding down this gravel road, and let me tell you, riding on gravel and especially on sand with a fat tire versus, you know, this Ride1Up Core-5 is not really a thin tire bike. It's somewhere around 2.5 inches, maybe 2.8, 2.9 inches wide for the tire. But compared to these 4-inch tires, it's totally different. I hit sand in this Ride1Up Core-5 bike, and I'm telling you, that sand just takes you where it wants to take you. You have very little control in the sand, and it's just a surprise where you end up. Whereas the 4-inch fat tires just went right over the sand, and I felt like I was much more in control. I definitely was much more in control. So that's number 4. And then number 5 is also on the fat tires. You know, when you ride these bikes, you know, if you're on smooth pavement, they're pretty much the same as far as quality of ride. But when you start hitting potholes and bumps in the road, and certainly when you get off-road, the joltiness of these bikes, I don't know if it's the weight, or if maybe I don't remember how when I used to ride bikes when I was younger, how bumpy it was to ride bikes, but these things will shake your teeth out if you don't have some kind of compensation for the bumpiness, or I call it joltiness. I don't know if that's a word, but the joltiness is kind of a big deal. And these fat tires really absorb a lot of that. And so I just think that's an inherent advantage of using a fat tire e-bike. If you don't have suspension, fat tires are going to be your friend. 3 things that I don't really like about this bike, and again, I love it, but if I had to pick some things, if you'll see right down here, the key is on the bottom of the bike. You can see the keychain hanging out the bottom there, right kind of underneath the C, or to bottom right of the C there, hanging out underneath the bike, and that key turns on the battery, and you have to have that key in to drive the bike. So you're literally driving with a key hanging out the bottom of your bike. And when you fold it, a number of users have bent their key because they folded the bike up while they still had the key in the lock. So it just seems like a weird design. You know, it kind of makes me a little bit anxious to have it hanging down there. I forget that it's there. So that'd be one thing that I don't like about it. The second thing is these graphics. If you're part of the Lectric owners group, as I am on Facebook, many owners are covering these graphics. Let me give you a comparison. Look at this Ride1Up bike. And look how great that looks. I mean, it is just sleek. It's that dark gray. And this is the logo that's on it. See how subtle that is? And man, just makes it a beautiful bike. But you got really more of kind of a NASCAR look, you know, over here with the Lectric bike. And I think it's both a little bit garish or gaudy, but also it tells everybody you've got an electric bike, which means, hey, this is a $1,000 bike. You're screaming that every time you leave it somewhere. You know, it's like, hey, come steal me. So I'd really prefer it not be so obvious. And then the final thing that I really don't care for about the Lectric bike is how narrow, look how narrow these handlebars are. And so when you're on the bike and the handlebars are kind of far out from you and they're narrow, it really has that I'm riding a scooter feel. And so I actually have this is my wife's Lectric bike. I have a black one that's exactly like that. And I've replaced those handlebars with ones that are about 3 inches wider and that are swept back a little bit. And that's made a huge difference for me. So anyway, that's kind of the overview for the Lectric bike. Let me tell you a little bit about some positives and some challenges with the Core-5. Again, I chose these bikes because I was looking for quality bikes with a US distributor and US support in the $1,000 price range. And so the Lectric goes for $899 typically on the Lectric website, free shipping. So you're, $100 under the $1,000 price point to compete in this shootout. And the Ride1Up bike goes for $1,095. So great value, great bike. Here's my top 5 things that I like about it. Number one is it's fast. And my brother and I have an identical twin brother, and he got on one bike and I got on the other bike, and we raced these bikes. And I guess he would say they're both the same speed, they're both fast, they both go to the same top speed, but the Ride1Up gets there quicker. It accelerates quicker than the Lectric. They're both 28 mile an hour class 3 e-bikes, but your Ride1Up is gonna get there more quickly. And so we did a race from a complete stop using only throttle on both bikes, and the Ride1Up Core-5 was significantly ahead by the time you got up to full speed. And then we switched bikes and we repeated the test, and the Ride1Up won again. And then we said, okay, we're gonna do it with throttle, pedal assist. You can use anything you want to get it up to speed. And we raced, and the Ride1Up Core-5 won again. And then we switched bikes and did that same method again, where we were in the highest level of pedal assist and using throttle and switching gears. And the Ride1Up Core-5 won that time as well. So it gets up to speed faster. Again, they're both 28 mile an hour class 3 e-bikes, and the Lectric has plenty of power and plenty of speed, but the Core-5 is faster. The second thing is, this is a bike. I talked a little bit about the Core-5 looking like and feeling like a scooter a little bit, particularly because of its shape, particularly because of its 20-inch tires, particularly because of its narrow handlebars. But there's no doubt that the Core-5 is a more traditional bike, looks more traditional, feels more traditional, and I like that aspect of it. I've changed the seat out, I've changed the grips out to kind of give it that old school dark gray and tan leather look. I love that kind of old school look of it. But it just has a classic bike look, and I love that about it. And I get lots of compliments on the look. The third thing is the integrated battery. You can see how the battery's integrated. It's not got one of those kind of tacked on batteries, but it's fully integrated into the frame here. And then of course on the Lectric you've got an integrated battery as well, but you've got to break the bike down and open it up to get that battery out. With the Ride1Up Core-5, you simply put the key in here. Again, in this bike, you don't have to have the key in to ride. I never put the key in. But if you want to take the battery out, you put the key in, pop the battery off, and then you can take it inside to charge. I take the bike in every night to charge, so I never have to take the battery out. The bike is kept inside my house. But I love that integrated battery. And then number 5 on the positives for the Ride1Up Core-5 is it's just got a great Facebook community. I really enjoy the other Ride1Up owners and the way they interact about their different models of bikes. We have a Ride1Up model 700 on the way, a step through for my wife. That's going to be her Ride1Up bike. Each of us are going to have an electric bike and a Ride1Up bike, and then obviously one of them's to share when we have guests come stay with us and that kind of thing. But we love the Facebook community, and we enjoy seeing pictures of people getting their bikes and interacting with customer service at Ride1Up, and they're very supportive, and the owners support each other. I would say that's the case on the Lectric group as well, but we just really enjoy that Ride1Up group. Things that I don't like about the Ride1Up Core-5, and I've mentioned a couple of these maybe already. One is in sand, the fat tire just has a real advantage, and that can be a safety issue. This is just not the kind of bike you want to ride in loose gravel or certainly sand. And so I would just take that off the table for this bike. Number 2 I mentioned already, which is very difficult to go slow. If you're wanting to ride with non-e-bike riders, this might not be the bike for you. You want something that you can ride at 10, 11, 12 miles an hour while still being in pedal assist. And then the third one is you know, the way that this battery is designed, I love the integration of it, but with that bottle holder right there, I cannot get the battery out. As I said, I take the bike in every night, so it's really no issue for me. But if I were to start taking the battery in at night and charging it without the bike, I'd have to take that off. I'd really have to remove that bottle holder because it will not come out with that bottle holder right there. And so, you know, just maybe a design flaw. There's really no other place to put a bottle holder. And so anyway, that's just something that I think maybe they need to think a little bit about. So let me just talk a little bit about the winner of the shootout. It was interesting. I'm going to show you my card here. When I was going to make my notes for this shootout, I filled up this card with things that I like and things that, you know, 3 things that I don't really like about each bike. And when I filled it out, I was coming up with 5 things that I liked about the Lectric bike, and I came up with 5 things, and then 6, and then 7, and then 8, and the list just kept growing. It was easy to make my list of 5. I didn't even have to think about it. And I think that tells you something. And the other thing is, you know, I have a choice of, you know, when I go out after work and I'm gonna go ride these bikes, I can grab either one of these bikes when I'm heading out. And without even thinking about it, there's something in my subconscious that grabs the Lectric bike versus the Ride1Up Core-5. And I'm not sure what it is. I think I'm gonna share something here in my closing that I think may be one of the factors that causes me to do that. But I end up picking the Lectric bike more often than not. And then the third thing that makes me lean towards overall the Lectric bike is this bike is $899. So it's $1,000, it's $100 under that $1,000 price point for this shootout. And the Ride1Up is $1,095. Both of them are free shipping, so that's comparable. But you're talking about almost a $200 price difference on a $1,000 e-bike shootout. That's almost 20%. That's a pretty significant price difference, even though you would say these are kind of approximately in the same price range. 20% is a big difference, particularly when I can make a list of the things I love much quicker on the Lectric bike. So it's kind of like, have you ever taken a math class and you got your test back and you made a 95 and you were excited about a 95, and then that jerk next to you made a 99 or 100 on the math test, and all of a sudden you weren't quite as excited about it? I would say this shootout is like that. I would give the A to the Ride1Up Core-5, but you got to give the A+ to the Lectric from a value standpoint, from a feature standpoint, and just a really cool, fun bike. The last thing I would say, and this is something that I really didn't understand, and I still am not an expert at, but bike geometry is really important. And one of my objectives when riding an e-bike was to ride in really kind of a relaxed, upright style. I didn't want a true cruiser bike, like a beach cruiser bike, but I wanted something that was a little more, I guess, hybrid type bike, but that I could ride in an upright style. And so initially when I chose this Core-5 from Ride1Up, I chose this, and I hope you can see this, but you see how the handlebars are swept back a little bit? You can either get straight handlebars or you can get ones that are swept back. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna get the swept back one so I can ride in that more relaxed, upright style. And that is, from a bike geometry standpoint, that is a factor. But that's not the only factor in riding upright. Another factor is, you see this? You see how the seat is almost in line with the handlebars? It doesn't matter how, and I kind of have that seat even a little low for me when you talk about the recommended seat heights for leg extension and that kind of thing. I have that seat a little bit on the low side. When I raise that seat to where and I only have 29-inch inseams, when I raise that seat to where my legs are almost fully extended at the bottom of my bike stroke, it's almost in line with those handlebars. And so even though they're swept back, I'm still in a somewhat bent over riding position, and there's a lot of weight on my arms. Now let's take a look at the Lectric bike. You'll notice here the stem for I don't know if it's called a stem or a riser or whatever it's called for the handlebars, it's got an adjustment on it. And so you can raise that up. And look how much higher it is than the seat. It's probably 4, 5, 6 inches above the seat. And I've added a little bit of a swept back wider handlebar onto mine. And so I really get this nice, relaxed, upright seating position with very little pressure on my arms. So I just wanted to lay that out in this comparison. If you haven't thought about that, that's really important as you're evaluating or comparing what bikes you want to drive. If you want that relaxed, upright position, you're really going to have to buy a bike where it has the kind of geometry that's going to allow for that. And that's a real challenge when, if you're shopping like I am, you're buying a bike that you can't go down to a local dealer and drive. So I just wanted to put that in this review. Hopefully you find that helpful. I'll be glad to answer questions about that in the comments. But again, howdy from Kyle Field in College Station, Texas. Glad you guys spent some time with us. I hope it's a great college football season. Texas A&M is definitely going to win the Southeast Conference this year. I'm calling it here, calling my shot right here on YouTube. Love to interact with you guys in comments, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.